Why are you sitting there? The surprising lesson from 4 outcasts who changed everything. The unlikely heroes of a starving city. Have you ever found yourself stuck in life, knowing that staying put leads to nothing but despair, yet terrified to take the next step? If so, you're not alone. A little-known Old Testament story captures this very dilemma, showing how 4 unlikely individuals made a decision that altered history. Their story, found in 2 Kings chapter 7, verse 3, is one of desperation, risk, and divine intervention. But here's the tension. These heroes weren't kings, prophets, or warriors. They were lepers, outcasts, people society had abandoned. Yet God used them to save an entire city. And in their journey, we find timeless truths about faith, action, and the unexpected ways God provides. So, what did these lepers do, and how does their story point to Jesus? Let's dive deep into this powerful biblical moment. A city on the brink of death. Before we explore the lepers' journey, we need to understand the setting. Samaria under siege. The city of Samaria, the capital of the northern kingdom of Israel, was under siege by the Aramean army, as recorded in 2 Kings chapter 6, verses 24 to 25. This wasn't just any military blockade, it was a death sentence. No food could enter the city, and starvation had reached horrifying levels. The Bible records that people were resorting to cannibalism, as noted in 2 Kings chapter 6, verses 28 to 29. Inside the city, fear and despair ruled. The king blamed the prophet Elisha, but Elisha had already declared that deliverance was coming. Yet no one knew how it would happen. 4 lepers at the city gate. Meanwhile, outside the city walls, 4 lepers were in an equally desperate situation. According to Levitical law, lepers were forced to live outside the city due to their disease. They were societal rejects, cut off from family, worship, and normal life. These men weren't just hungry, they were dying, and they faced a critical decision. The decision, a risky step of faith. Sitting at the city gate, they asked each other a life-altering question. Why are we sitting here until we die? They had 3 options: stay where they were, and surely die; go into the city, where famine had already consumed the people; or go to the enemy's camp, where they might be killed, but also might find mercy and food. It was a gamble, but they realized one key truth: inaction guaranteed death. Moving forward, however uncertain, was their only chance. So they took the risk and walked toward the Aramean camp. The miracle, God moves when we move. As the lepers approached the enemy camp, they braced for the worst. But when they arrived, they found something astonishing. The camp was abandoned. Tents, food, silver, gold, all left behind. God had gone before them. The Bible reveals that God had caused the Aramean army to hear the sound of a mighty approaching force, leading them to flee in terror. What should have been a scene of danger became a place of divine provision. The lepers, once starving outcasts, suddenly found themselves feasting on the spoils of a vanished army. But they didn't stop there. They shared the good news. Realizing the abundance, they said, "We are not doing right. This day is a day of good news. If we are silent and wait until the morning light, punishment will overtake us. Now therefore come, let us go and tell the king's household." They returned to the city, reported the miracle, and soon, just as Elisha had prophesied, food was available again, ending the famine. What this story teaches us about God. God uses the unlikely. The lepers were the least expected instruments of deliverance. This aligns with how God often works, choosing the weak to shame the strong, as it says in 1 Corinthians chapter 1, verse 27. Faith requires action. The lepers had no guarantee of survival, yet they moved forward. Their story mirrors Peter stepping out onto the water as found in Matthew chapter 14, verse 29. Faith is not just belief, it's action. Provision is found in obedience. Had the lepers stayed at the gate, they would have died. Their decision to move led them to God's provision. Similarly, when Israel crossed the Red Sea, as described in Exodus chapter 14, verses 21 to 22, the waters parted only when they stepped forward. The gospel foreshadowed. The lepers' story is a picture of the gospel. Just as they were outcasts who discovered salvation and shared the good news, we, once spiritual lepers, are called to share the message of Christ, as instructed in Matthew chapter 28, verses 19 to 20. How this story points to Jesus. Jesus, like the lepers, was an outsider. He was despised and rejected, as noted in Isaiah chapter 53, verse 3, yet became the source of salvation. Jesus provided abundance where there was lack. Just as the lepers found unexpected provision, Jesus multiplied the loaves and fish, as told in John chapter 6, verses 11 to 13. Jesus is the bread of life. The starving Samaritans needed physical food, just as humanity needs the spiritual sustenance that only Christ provides, as stated in John chapter 6, verse 35. The lepers' decision to step forward led to salvation for an entire city, just as Jesus' decision to go to the cross brought salvation to the world, as described in Philippians chapter 2, verses 8 to 9, applying this story to everyday life. Step out in faith even when you can't see the outcome. Many of us hesitate to act because we want guarantees. But faith means trusting God and moving forward even when the path is uncertain. For example, starting a new ministry, sharing your testimony, or making a bold career move all require faith in God's guidance. Share the good news freely. The lepers could have kept the treasure to themselves, but they chose to share. Likewise, we are called to share the hope of Christ. Don't keep your faith private. Look for opportunities to share God's goodness in everyday conversations. Conclusion: why are you sitting there? The leper's question remains relevant today. Why are we sitting here until we die? Are you waiting for a sign before stepping out in faith? Are you hesitant to share the gospel, fearing rejection? Are you holding back from God's provision because of doubt? Like the lepers, we must move forward. God has already gone ahead, preparing the way. The miracle is waiting, but we must take the first step. So, what are you waiting for? If you've gotten any value out of our time together, then smash that like button and don't forget to share and subscribe. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.